Hi everyone, I'm back. So things haven't been going that great lately, and I found myself hiding out a lot. I do have my next ketamine injection this coming weekend, so I'm sure things will be looking up after that, but I wanted to do a quick check-in before it got any longer than it has been. The depression/anxiety that I've been dealing with the past couple of months is not out of nowhere. It's derived from a slew of stressors, some self-imposed and some from external sources that I have little control over. I got sick on 2 separate occasions, and each of those times knocked me out of work for an entire week, which exhausted all of the remaining sick pay I had. And there was one day that I had to go without pay. And then shortly after that, I decided to pick up a few more hours at work, which is both good and bad. Extra money, always good. I know it doesn't sound like much to a lot of you, but I worked 6 days in a row and I haven't done that in years. All in all, it wasn't that bad, but my job involves a significant amount of stress, and because of an increase in hours worked, I also experienced an increase in stress. Out of the 6 days I worked in a row, I slept for virtually none of them. I guess the stress just got to me. I haven't had trouble sleeping lately, but that 6-day stint wrecked me. And then about a week ago, my grandpa had a mini stroke. It didn't seem like much while it was happening. He only said that his right arm and leg felt numb and that he thought he was having a stroke. My brother was quick to call 911, and when the paramedics arrived, he seemed relatively fine. They at first decided that he had not had a stroke and that his heart was fine, but I guess on the way to the ER, a doctor had decided that he most likely had experienced a stroke, and after further testing confirmed this, and his motor skills have suffered because of it. His ability to write has been greatly diminished. My grandpa loves to play guitar, and now he finds that he can't. His speech has suffered a bit, but not bad. He slurs a little now and then, and he's begun physical therapy, and they believe he's going to regain most of what he had before. But it was kind of shocking. I don't know if I would have jumped on calling 911 as fast as my brother. I might have asked him a few more questions. So what started out as a seemingly minor event, and one where honestly I thought my grandpa might be overreacting, turned out to be something potentially huge and scary. I'm pretty thankful that he's okay. The thought of something happening to him. He survived a small stroke. It could have been so much worse than it is. He turns 90 this year. He has long life on his side of the family. It's not unheard of to live past 100, whether they want to. All of that aside, the stressor that is dominating most of my mind is something I had referenced in the last video and maybe the one before. It's been going on for quite a while. I had mentioned that I had a falling out with a certain person, but that I was sure that we would work it out. But it's been a few months now and we haven't worked it out. And I honestly don't know why. I didn't want to name names or anything because I don't want this to become an accusation. Originally, I had not intended to talk specifics because I was so sure this would blow over in no time. But it's weighed so heavily on me and caused me to collapse in on myself that and some of the things that I have done as a result, I feel like need to be talked about. This is a mental health vlog, and I am keeping some important things from you. So first of all, this person is my sister, the same one that went with me to my ketamine appointment the time before last in order to receive an injection of her own, which she wound up declining, but she did reap other benefits from the trip. She obtained a prescription and a diagnosis from Dr. Early. I am still going to keep this I'm going to keep this short, and I'm going to keep it as vague as possible. I don't want this to become, this is not an accusation, and I definitely don't want, I would imagine she's not going to watch this, but at the same time, I don't want to start an argument over YouTube, or even for this to be how we break the silence. But I need to explain a few things in order to justify my actions. Justify is the wrong word. To show cause, unwarranted may it be. Anyway, this all started the day we got home from seeing Dr. Early. So this has been going on since early December. My brother and sister and I were having a conversation. This conversation turned to debate, and the debate got heated. My brother and I both agreed on something that my sister did not. I think eventually she felt ganged up on, and she got possibly hurt and definitely angry. But my brother and sister had a few choice words for one another, and it ended with my sister walking away angry. I stayed up so late writing this text to her that I never sent, because I couldn't get all the words out that I wanted to in that text, and it got so late I had to go to sleep. And then the next morning, as I'm bolting out the door for work, I catch her on the way out, and I mentioned that I wish we hadn't left it like that, and I hope we could talk about it. And I don't remember exactly what she said, but it was apparent that she was still angry and didn't seem interested in talking. So anyway, I thought with more time she'd be more open, but when I came home from work, she was locked away in her room. At that time, there were 2 more days she would be here before she flew back to Washington, where she lives. And in those 2 days, I didn't see her. I should have pushed harder then, but I didn't. And she left without saying goodbye. Well, actually, my mom had told me that she was leaving. I thought she said in a bit. Turns out she had said now. So I misunderstood, and in like 10 minutes I went to say goodbye and they were gone. But to be fair, she did not come say goodbye to me. So I took that to mean that she was still angry. Now we skip ahead a month. It's a little after Christmas. I have no idea what she's feeling, but I have agonized over this constantly for the past month, when suddenly my mom tells me that we will be receiving gifts from her, and she wants us to open them in front of her on FaceTime. There are a lot of things I should have done here. I didn't do any of them. What I did do is assume that she wants to sweep all of this under the rug and move on. And I did not want to do that. I should have called and talked to her. I should have sent her an email. I should have done a lot of things, but I didn't. So, without talking to her, I declined to open her gift. I'm not declining her gift. I'm just declining to open it, because she wants to do it while she wants me to open the gift in front of her. I declined to open the gift at that time with the full intention of opening it once we had resolved this. I don't want it to come across like I'm being overly sensitive here. I have some moderately thick skin, but she had said some things that were pretty hurtful, mostly towards my brother, but so many people in my family already do that. They say things you can't take back, and then the next day they just want to pretend it never happened, all the while growing further and further apart to where I have almost nothing to do with most of them. I definitely don't want that to be the case with my sister. More time goes by. My brother eventually opens his gift, messages her a thank you, and she does not respond. Fast forward about a month. I've still been agonizing over all this constantly, when I find out we will be receiving a surprise visit from my sister for an undetermined amount of time. Her significant other has had a family emergency, and because of this, they're both flying back here. And my sister is staying with us. Bear in mind, I still have yet to open this gift. We have yet to talk about anything. And we're going to be living in the same house for who knows how long. I panic a little. Anxiety sets in. At this point, again, I'm making a lot of assumptions. I feel like there's going to be a fight, or I'm going to get yelled at. I'm sure it's going to be awkward, and that I assume she's mad at me. I know that I'm a little mad at her. And what do? I just avoid her entirely. When she gets here, we don't speak at all. I can't quite remember exactly what happened when she arrived. I know that I stayed in my room avoiding her for at least a day, maybe 2. I'd come out when she was gone or when she was sleeping in order to eat and whatnot. She texted me a couple things. Are you avoiding me? We could be hanging out right now. Things like that, which I ignore. I really want to see her and I want to resolve this and I want to spend time with her. But the anxiety, I haven't experienced anxiety like that in a long time. It was crippling. I did finally decide to feel it out. Bear in mind that I don't want to let everything go. I want to talk about it. I want to talk about what happened. I want us to find some resolution. And then when I see her, she says, "Are you ready to talk to me now?" Maybe a completely benign statement. I'm already super anxious. And it felt like a jab, and it may not have been at all. So I say, "Yeah, but I don't know what there is to talk about." And that was my way of saying that I think we have a lot to talk about and that I think she doesn't want to. And of course, in that one sentence, "I don't know what there is to talk about," I assume she's going to guess its true meaning. Definitely a bad plan. This is the one part of our conversation that I am actually going to share verbatim, because it has a lot to do with what happens next. A warning in advance. I will be using a couple expletives here, but I feel it is necessary for the story. After I said, "I don't know what there is to talk about," she got angry and told me to fuck off. And then all this stuff kind of poured out that I'd been holding in. I described the interaction in our last encounter a couple of months before. I described the things that were said and pointed out that she did not talk to me for 2 days and then left without saying goodbye, and that we haven't spoken since. And now we're just supposed to pretend that none of that happened. And then she responded with something I do not remember, but she was angry and she walked away. Then I get a text from her saying, "I'm done with you. Way to go, asshole." I definitely should have handled all of that differently, but in my anxiety-ridden state, all of my worst fears were realized. So I decided to lock myself away in my room for the next 2 or 3 days. I don't remember. I know that I did not eat, and I drank very little just to avoid the need to use the bathroom in an effort to not leave my room. I was so anxious, scared really, of that confrontation again. I just avoided at all costs. It is the most unhealthy thing I've done in the months since I started ketamine. I wasn't completely unproductive in that time. I did spend hours and hours writing out an extremely long text, trying to open up communication between us and to fix this. I sent it after the second day of not coming out of my room, but my brother said that she had never received it, and I couldn't find it in me to send it again. So after she left this time, all in all, I think she was here about a week, and the last 2 or 3 days of that, I locked myself away in my room. And she left this time without me saying goodbye. Dramatic, I know. It was just one little thing. I let this one thing, not receiving the resolution that I wanted, snowball into something larger. And it got to the point where I was experiencing significant amounts of depression and anxiety, and instead of using what I have learned to overcome these things, I just let the floodgates open and experienced this deluge of negativity. I recovered pretty quickly after she left, at least to the point where I'm at now, which by no means is fantastic, but I am okay. I have no idea where she and I stand now, and I have still done nothing. I do know that she has blocked me on Facebook, which I guess says something. This is in no way over for me. I'll find a way to approach her. This is all weighed so heavily on me. I'm actually exhausted just talking about it. I guess I also don't want it to come across like I'm just unbending, unwilling to let things go and move on. The reason I need resolution is because this has happened more than once. I just need to know that we can have disagreements and that it won't end in being yelled at or called names. Have I ever said this to her? No. I let my anxiety rule me, and it made me a coward. And now I've probably said too much. The reason I share all this with you is because honesty is an important part of this vlog. And really, without it, all of this is pointless. I want this to be an honest portrayal of severe depression, my depression, being conquered by ketamine. Or granted, it rears its ugly head again and again, but it is vanquished over and over by ketamine. And with that said, it's important to note that it is not perfect. It is not a cure, and I still deal with many of the repercussions from having depression and anxiety I still have depression. I still have anxiety. Just with ketamine, I can control it in a way that nothing else has been able to do for me. In the first 2 or 3 weeks after an injection, I am virtually cured. I experience almost no signs of depression, anxiety from time to time, but it's minor. At the end of that time, it starts to build. It begins to return slowly, though, and it's manageable. When all these other things are piled on top of it, though, it tends to get worse, at least for short periods of time. And I feel like in all likelihood, just having had severe depression and anxiety for so long, as long as I can practically remember, that will always shape who I am now. Maybe what some would think of as a cure doesn't even exist. The complete absence of depression and anxiety and all of its effects and echoes. That sounds impossible to me. And I don't mean that pessimistically, I mean that realistically. I don't believe it's rational to sit here and say that I believe with this much ketamine and this much therapy of whatever nature that at some point it will be as though I was never depressed. A whole human being. You know what I mean? That just doesn't sound realistic. I think there are parts of me that will always be affected by what I have gone through. I think that's probably accurate, and I don't think of that as a sad thing. Well, I guess it's a little sad, but not from my perspective. At this point, and I mean this sincerely, I am just happy to be alive. I'm happy to be alive, and I want to be alive. And that is huge, and that is thanks to ketamine. I may never be completely whole or completely normal, but I'm happy with this. And I know that it's going to get a lot better than where I'm at right now. And I hope the same for you. So thanks for listening to me. Oh, actually, there's a couple of things I want to talk about real quick before I go. One, I am reading a book which so far has been fantastic. I'm only about halfway through so far. It's called Mistakes Were Made, But Not By Me. It's by Carol Tavris and Elliot Aronson. Its tagline is "Why We Justify Foolish Beliefs, Bad Decisions, and Hurtful Acts." It's incredibly enlightening, surprisingly so. When I was recommended this book by a friend of mine, I assumed that all the information would be apparent, that I already know why I make excuses for myself. But it goes so far beyond that, not just the why we justify those things, but the how. This book dives deep into the psyche and even into the science of how your memory works and how it shouldn't always be trusted. It's fascinating stuff. I'll probably talk more about it once I've finished it, unless of course the last half is garbage, and I'm sure that's not the case. Also, the website. I recently poured a lot of time into depressionrecovery.org. I finally did what I had been saying I would do, well, since it launched, really. What I'm most excited about are the forums. I hope that it becomes a place for all of us to share our stories and to connect, to seek encouragement or advice, not medical advice, mind you, but just the advice that comes from those who have experienced something similar. A place to vent, to commiserate, to prop each other up. A place to discuss therapies that you've tried, to discuss medications and the acclimation process and side effects that you've experienced. A place for all things mental health related. The forums still need work. I found some bugs already, but I'm working them out. I've also added a resource page with links to educational material. Some are lectures on topics like depression or suicide. There are links to studies and articles focusing on things like ketamine. It's all still a work in progress. Most importantly, on the resource page, there is a section for you to submit links. If you have any articles or studies or sites that you find relevant or interesting or inspiring, please head to the resource page on depressionrecovery.org, and at the bottom of the page you'll find a submission form. I need all the help I can get. And if you are so inclined, head to the forum tab and share your story. It would definitely benefit others, but you may also find it beneficial to yourself. I know that already what I have shared through this vlog has benefited me tremendously. Not only in the catharsis involved in talking all of this stuff in my head out on camera, but also because of the amazing people I've met because of it. This project has allowed me to connect with some truly inspiring people. I have connected with people who are at extremely low points in their journey and others who have found success equal to mine and greater. And I want the same for you. I want the same for all of us. Until we all have access to treatments like ketamine and things like it, and better things not yet developed, we need to come together and support each other as best we can. People need to know they're not alone. They don't have to be afraid or ashamed to talk about these things. So let's stick together. Hang in there with me. I'll see you soon.